With us now, Wall Street Journal columnist Peggy Noonan. She's written 8 books about American politics and is a former speechwriter for President Reagan. Welcome.
Hello, good morning.
How are you? This business about Donald Trump.
Yeah.
George Will over the weekend said, why is he doing this?
He had colorful words.
Yes, he did.
Professional ignoramus or something like that. My view is that the Romney campaign made a mistake. Here is the mistake. There was a certain freak show atmosphere to the Republican primaries in the past 6 months or so. Now that's kind of over. The show is over. Mr. Romney wins the nomination tonight. Texas will put him over the top. This is a good time for him to differentiate himself from the stranger aspects of the Republican race.
How does he do that?
Well, one way you don't do it, I think, is do a fundraiser with Donald Trump, who was part of the freak show aspects. So it's a little surprising that he did this. I suspect Mitt Romney was thinking in the old LBJ way. LBJ once said, cleaning up his language, it's much better to have people on the inside of the tent aiming out than the outside of the tent aiming in.
He was speaking of J. Edgar Hoover when he said that.
Well, was he ever?
Yeah. But Ronald Reagan said, it's not what my opponent, the people who support me, it's not about what they believe in, it's about what I believe.
Yeah, Reagan got into an interesting point in 1980 when the John Birch Society, a rather fringe group, came out in robust support of him. Now, that wasn't good for Reagan, and he was asked, reporters said right away, ha, these crazy people are supporting you. And he said, you know, they may be supporting me, but that doesn't mean I'm supporting them. Right. And that was the end of it.
This from the Washington Post today, looking at the getting the nomination after Texas. The Republican Party will have selected an unlikely standard bearer for 2012, a New Englander in a party rooted in the South, a man of moderate temperament in a party fueled by hot rhetoric, a Mormon in a party guided by evangelical Christians, a flip-flopper in a party that demands ideological purity.
Ain't that interesting? That's very well put.
So how did this happen? And what does he do now?
There's a funny thing about Mitt Romney. His positions, as he has espoused them in 2008 and in 2012, were very conservative, very in line with party orthodoxy of the right of the party. And yet, in a funny way, he reads and comes across as a classic Republican moderate. So that's just an interesting difference between the things people stand on and the way they represent the way they present
and that's
themselves.
the reason the right did not trust him during the primaries.
Well, you know what? At the end of the day, he was the guy who was always starting out with about 30% and always building from that. I interviewed him the other day, and he said, you know, I think I've proved myself. I said, why are you doing well right now? He said, I've proved myself. I fought in all those big states, and sometimes we were 10 points behind, but we toughed it out, and we had good campaigns, and I kept emerging as the victor. And that indeed is what happened. Also, the Republican Party, guys, there's such a strong right that has such strong views, and yet if you look at the history of their nominees in the past few decades, they've tended to choose the guy they thought was more moderate.
Which in many ways is the guy they thought could win. I want to touch on a point that Bill brought up about veterans showing greater support for Mitt Romney.
Yeah.
How important will veterans be in this race?
Oh, I forget the proportion of the electorate that they are. I think it's about 18%. So that's significant. What's significant also is that Romney's support among veterans apparently is so lopsided. He doesn't carry them by 5 points or even 10 points. He's like up there around 20 points. Do I think it's significant? Yes. Do I consider it shocking? No. Veterans tend in their impulses and their very way of looking at life to be somewhat conservative, and I don't think they've ever fully understood President Obama. So I'm not shocked.
Peggy, thank you.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
Thanks.